Hey, let's, I can do no better than start the Book of Mormon commentary by beginning with some observations from the greatest Book of Mormon scholar to ever grace Mormonism, and that would be the late, great Hugh Nibley. And I just want to touch some ideas that he had in his, it's a 4-volume series, it's his honors classes on teachings of the Book of Mormon in the first semester, 1989 and 1990, where he was given just full access, just let her rip, and man did he ever. I also have these on tape, and so I get to listen to them from time to time. I've been through this class at least a dozen times. When I was scroll sawing, woodworking full-time, I would listen to these tapes, and they are simply staggering. It's breathtaking, the erudition, the overarching information that Nibley discussed. He says, and this is in the first lecture on page 2, there's nothing else like the Book of Mormon. It's like nothing else. And then he compares it with the Bible. And with the Bible, you know, it's basically broken up into 3 sections: the Torah, the Tanakh, the Nevi'im, who are the prophets, and the Ketuvim, the writings. Well, the Bible was put together over about, thousands of years. It's a very human document. Many, many different authors from many different times, many different backgrounds, philosophies, etc. And the Book of Mormon is the same way. We know the Book of Mormon was written by various different prophets as the lineage history of the Book of Mormon. I've got some information from John Sorensen on that. Was passed down from father to son, father to son, father to son. And so many, many different hands were in the process of putting their record, their interpretation of their particular lives on those golden plates. And the word print analysis studies that was done for decades has demonstrated that there are various different authors. It's very an interesting situation. But the Book of Mormon doesn't have, how Nibley puts it, he said, of course there are 8,000 different manuscripts of the New Testament. No two of them are alike. So what this means for the materials of the Bible is that we have a lot of collating, comparing, arguing about which passages are which, and what order they come in. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but the Jewish Bible has a different order to it than the Christian Old Testament. Even that is in dispute. The Christians have changed the order of the texts, and that does give a different meaning to the Old Testament. Absolutely. It's very interesting how that works. And he says year after year a revised translation comes out. You know, you have the new revised Cambridge edition, and then you have the Anchor Bible series, and just recently Robert Alter has translated the first 5 books of Moses, and his analysis of the Psalms. Well, every year there's a new revised, new, improved, better translation of the Bible. So are we really understanding the Bible if it's constantly being renewed and updated and improved? You see, that's kind of an interesting situation. In the Book of Mormon, it's been handed to us in a single passage. Bang! Just like that. The angel brought the book, Joseph Smith translated it by the gift and power of God, and bam! He gave us the book. It's one thing to say, yes, I'm going to produce this book. It's another thing to give us the book. And it's a big book, over 500 pages. This is impressive. In a short course of 8 to 9 weeks of dictating to the scribes. Now, interesting, Royal Skousen's materials in his analysis of the textual variants in the Book of Mormon, and in some of his materials in the Journal of Book of Mormon Studies and all, he demonstrates how the actual manuscript evidence proves that this is a dictation text. You know, the critics say, Solomon Spaulding wrote it, or Ethan Smith View of the Hebrews, or Sidney Rigdon did it, or whatever, but who were they dictating to? Because all the evidence points that it is a manuscript that was dictated to. Very interesting in that regard. Kind of corroborates Joseph Smith's story is what it does. The manuscript evidence itself. So, the whole thing, the Book of Mormon came to us already edited. Already put in order and an entire single package in a one-shot deal. Boink, there it is, from Joseph Smith on. Fascinating. There's nothing to slow us down on it. There's nothing to hold us up until we've decided what order the books are, or what this passage means, or what type of translation should we give here. No, all of that's given to us. All we have to do is read, absorb, and enjoy the Book of Mormon. You can't do that with the Bible. It's a very interesting comparison, isn't it? It is, in the words of exceeding very plainness, in a very small vocabulary. John A. Whitstow, in his book, I can't remember what his book is, but Whitstow showed how the vocabulary is only a 3,000-word vocabulary. It's far, far, far less than Shakespeare or Milton in the Book of Mormon. Very interesting, that. And then I wanted to skip over. I love how Nibley brings this out. He says, on page 5, he says, how do you unravel it? You don't need an electronic machine to feed it back into. You have to feed it back into yourself, as you're reading the text, that is. Because you have to riddle. And this is the meaning of the word read. I thought this was so interesting, because when you read something, you riddle it. You unravel it. It's a mystery for you to solve. That's the whole idea. You have to unriddle what is written. It's up to you. And this is the interesting thing. Reading is an act of faith. When you read, you riddle. You use your wits. I really think that's interesting. Then over on page 6, I'll skip a little bit here, he says, when you read the Book of Mormon, every sentence is a whole proposition. And it presents a number of possibilities. And this is something we need to keep in mind with our Book of Mormon. It may or may not contain a vast amount of information. That's up to us to find out, right? Well, I found out that 1 Nephi chapter 1 contains an astonishing amount of information, as I'm showing you. All reading is a miracle, actually, when you really stop and think about it. It is a miracle to be able to read. There's people out there who say, well, there are no miracles going on today. Oh, yes, there are. Pick up a book and read it. That's a miracle. He's quite serious. So am I. It's a phenomenon. Very fascinating. It's like the flight of the bee. There's no reason why it should take place, and yet it does. And there's something that takes place in your mental processes that's transferred from what is written into your mind to mean, to give you context and meaning. There's something involved there. This is a transmission from the past. Fascinating, isn't it? We can actually read it and comprehend what they were actually thinking, what they believed, what they saw, what they felt, what they heard, what they experienced. It's incredibly interesting. He says, last night I was reading an Arabic text. Now, this is quite a remarkable thing. In an Arabic text, you don't have any vowels written. Now, I've got a Hebrew Reader Bible, an Old Testament, and it's the same thing with Hebrew. There are no vowels. You just simply read with consonants. The vowels were inserted to try to help you in your pronunciation and understanding, and it actually complicates things. If you get rid of all the dots and the bars and all that, you can just zip along with nothing but consonants, and you can read the Hebrew real easy. It's fascinating. He says the same thing about the Arabic, he says. What marvels there might be in the written record, if we're only aware of it. And the only way to become aware of it is to read it. So read the Book of Mormon. If Joseph Smith is right, the written records should be as old as the human race itself, because he proclaims it all began with a book of remembrance from Adam. And writing goes way back. And there's not a lot of evolution to writing. It just simply, boink, appeared full-blown. The Egyptians said that the hieroglyph means a sacred writing, a secret sacred writing. They received it as an inheritance.